Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Sam, how's it going?
Good. It's going good. Going great. Got out of work like 2 hours early, so
There you go.
I'm excited.
The work week is shorter.
Exactly. That's 2 whole hours I didn't have to myself earlier. So, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Which means we get to record this earlier, which means I have more energy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your, I'm looking it up right now. I'm looking for your Kickstarter update.
We are at 54% of the way funded. That's right. We have been halfway funded, more than halfway funded now.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic. I'm so excited. I'm pumped. Which means, still a little bit of an uphill battle, but we did this on purpose. We did a 45-day Kickstarter instead of a 30-day.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, if you think about it, we funded our comic in about half a month.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry. We met the halfway mark for our comic in about half of a month.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like our chances are a little bit better now that we have a whole rest of the month to figure out just how the heck we're gonna get this fully funded.
As of recording this, it's still almost a full month. By the time this episode hits the air, it's going to be less than that. So if you want to donate, go donate.
Yes, please do. And if you're not interested in any of our tiers, I mean, we have some really great rewards going on here. You can be in the comic. You can get a sticker collection. You can have your name signed on as a producer of the comic. We got all kinds of goodies for you. But if you don't want any of that, all you have to do is go to the very top of the rewards tier, and there's a little section that says donate because you support the project. So if that's all you could do, I'm super grateful for that. And just share as often as you can, wherever you can. Really appreciate it.
Heck yeah. By the time this airs, last week, a new episode of the Sam Chat on our Cinnamon Oatmeal Adventures of Cinnamon Oatmeal Patreon. Which is kind of just like this, me and Sam just talking, except it's kind of more D&D focused. It's great though.
It is. It's really fun. I always have a blast doing them. I get to host and ask Matt all the questions.
Yep. And since we don't have like any tier 3 patrons right now, kind of some of that content we're just kind of just like adding. We did try to record something a week or two ago, but we've been having some issues with the audio. We're going to have to get like a new way to record. Haven't figured that out yet. And so we had to basically scrap that. So we still need to record that. And I think we're just going to make it for everyone, or at least for like any subscriber, any tier. So, yeah. But what else, man? I feel like there's a lot today. The trailer, the teaser dropped for Prey, the new Predator movie. The character from Fortnite, the Predator. He's finally getting a movie.
Oh yeah. Well, it's about time. The wizard guy from Fortnite got his own movie a couple of weeks ago. So
they put him in the Avengers. So that's some killer marketing, Fortnite.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting to me though how that this movie Prey is going to go directly to Hulu.
Yeah,
which I think that's going to be the Searchlight model from now on. Is that any of their I don't know, more graphic movies or something? Because now since Fox is owned by Disney, pretty sure that a good portion of their more adult films are going to go just straight to Hulu streaming.
It sucks, man, because it's a Predator movie. You'd think it would kill it at the box office.
I mean, we thought that the last time we had a Predator movie in theaters.
Did it not do well?
Nah, not really. Not really. Predator. See, that's the thing. Predator and Alien, those are two franchises that it's like it's a mixed bag sometimes. You really got to be careful. And I feel like Predator had some pretty good traction even after the Robert Rodriguez one. which really was only like the third in the series if you're not counting the Alien versus Predator movies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because while it wasn't like as beloved as like the first one was, it was still pretty good. I remember having a good time with it. But yeah, it's one of those franchises that's really weird.
I think a lot of it has to do with the casting
Yeah.
because the last one that came out, there was no one that really stood out.
Hmm.
Whereas in the Rodriguez one, like Adrian Brody was still like pretty popular at the
Hmm.
time. Then you had Topher Grace. Everyone's like, "Oh, okay." You had Danny Trejo. Everyone's like, "Danny
Hmm.
Trejo's in this movie. All right, let's go." Like you had familiar faces who you wanted to see survive.
Yeah.
And although we liked a lot of the cast from the latest one, they weren't really like other than Keegan Michael Key, who was just one of the dudes in the trailer.
Hmm.
Like they should have put him in more of the trailer or something. I don't know. Like
Hmm.
I think it's the casting. The guy who played the lead, he's all right. He's played some good stuff before, but he kind of always plays that same type of role.
Hmm.
He hasn't really been in anything. Actually, played a character that stood out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And let's face it, we haven't had an alien movie in decades, and the Prometheus and Covenant don't count because they're not. Well, I mean, maybe
Covenant counts.
Covenant
It's
counts,
Alien
but
Covenant.
like
Yeah. But
it was
I
different. Like
yeah.
it didn't feel like an alien movie.
Yeah. Yeah, Alien Covenant's weird. I've come around a little bit on Prometheus, and I
Mhm.
and I can view it on its own as a really cool
I love
thing.
Prometheus.
Yeah, Prometheus is
It's just not
is,
an
is
alien
really
movie,
good. Yeah,
and
yeah,
they try and sell it like it is.
yeah. And I think in that's what the problem was. But also like that was the whole behind the scenes thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
Ridley Scott wanted to make his movie, and they weren't going to give him one unless it was an alien movie. So he's like, all right, I'll
Mm-hmm.
make an alien movie, kind of. So
Yeah. And with Covenant, it's just like it just feels like
it just felt like lesser Alien, you
yeah,
know?
we'll try and make an alien movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I want new blood in that franchise. Give
Yeah.
us a new freaking director.
Hmm.
Hey, hey. Also, there's a great new video that dropped today on the Dungeons and Dragons YouTube page about Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, their new adventure book. And they
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
one of the adventures in there called The Fiend of Hollow Mine, written by Mario Ortegon.
Hmm.
I think that's how you say it. He's this guy. He born and raised in Mexico, and a lot of the world he built in Dungeons and Dragons is really based off of. Um, can you say it's based off of it? Because it's like an interpretation. It's like a fantasy interpretation of the things he saw growing up in Mexico and a lot of the
Hmm.
culture.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a huge part of it. Seems like this adventure in this world that revolves around like Fantasy Day of the Dead, which is really cool. And it was a really cool video. It's like a 12-minute video where they're interviewing him about it. And it's just you've never really seen this like Mexican culture portrayed in fantasy,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
Uh at least like the fantasy like that we know, because the typical fantasy is like based off of European type of
Myth and
myth.
folklore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see this. And this book, Journey Through the Radiant Citadel, it's all from authors who are people of color. First book of its kind. Awesome. I cannot wait. And this adventure sounded really cool. And I'm just like, all right, that's pretty cool. Kind of in the same vein of we were talking about your comic, Quetzalcoatl earlier. I'm like, this is pretty rad. This is pretty
Yeah.
rad to see
Yeah.
more representation in mediums and in forms that we haven't really seen before. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. But I'm also excited to talk about this episode because I'm not going
What
to
a
try.
segue.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and speed through it, but I do want to kind of just talk about it. Just get into the meat of it pretty quick because I have something different for Sam, at the end of
Ooh.
this episode that we need to discuss.
Ooh,
So
interesting. Okay. All right.
yeah, let's get
Let's
into
let's get into it.
if that's the potatoes, we're gonna get into the meat, and then we're gonna save
Mm,
dessert for last.
yeah.
All right, so the meat of it. Into the meat of it. Into the meat of it.
Oh no. Sounds disturbing.
What's the actual line? Thick of
Into
it?
the into the thick of it.
Is that what's that damn musical? What's that musical?
What? Into the woods?
Into the Woods, that's what it's called. I was like, couldn't
I
remember.
think so, yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Into the Woods.
Yeah.
Into the thick of it. All right. We're talking about Lost, actually. Season 3, episode 12, Par Avion. After noticing some migratory birds, Claire hatches an impressive plan to get rescued. I didn't write this. I stole this from the internet. So, meanwhile, Saeed, Kate Locke, and Danielle continue their trek to the barracks with Mikhail in tow. All right, so let's jump into. I guess we'll do flashbacks first. Let's talk about Claire.
Okay.
Goth Claire. I'm assuming like a teenage Claire.
Yeah, kind of.
Because
Like
they don't
18, maybe 19, I don't know.
They don't really say it, but like it seems like a long time progressed throughout these flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's like goth Claire at the beginning, by the end she's not, and she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. So you're led to believe that like time has passed. But anyway, in these flashbacks, it's revealed that not at the beginning, but by the end you find out that Claire and her mom were in this car wreck caused by Claire. They were fighting, and essentially her mom was put on it's life support, but is life support like permanent? Is that what it's called?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, she's permanently on life support now.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably never going to wake up, and Claire's dealing with the guilt of that. Meanwhile, her father, who she thought was dead, returns to take care of her or to help. It's never really made clear. Maybe to clear his own conscience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he footed the bill to take care of, all of the medical expenses.
But he didn't have to actually show up.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting. But of course, her father being none other than our least favorite neurosurgeon, Christian Shepherd.
Son of a bitch.
I gotta say though, you know what? I hate this guy, but that actor must be having fun. Because he's essentially one of the cast by now. He shows up at least twice a season, if not more. Yeah.
At least twice. It's so interesting. I took notes. I took notes this episode. And one of my notes was Christian Shepherd has got to be one of the most complicated characters on this show.
I love it. I love it so much because it's so easy to hate this guy. And I don't want to say you get him, you understand him as if that's like in like trying to justify his actions or anything, but like we've seen his story arc. We've seen his ups and downs. So like it makes sense. Like he's a full character. In a lot of ways, our main cast isn't. We're always complaining about Jack making progress and then one step forward, two steps back. One step forward, two steps back, over and over. Christian Shepherd isn't, because he just shows up in flashbacks and he shows up in other people's flashbacks. And you're really able to see this portrait of a man who's like, this is a real human being. I don't know how you would do it if you were to give him his own show, or his own story. But because he's in and out of everyone's stories, you get to see the different sides of him, and you get to see him at different points in his life. And I don't know, he's like the most realistic character on this show because we're not able to just focus solely on him. Because, of course, like everyone's life is like super boring and or stressful. Until it's not, until something crazy happens. And then that you go through that and then, okay, it's back to normal. And it's really hard to translate real life into a
Yeah.
storytelling format. So I think this is a pretty clever way of how they're doing it with Christian Shepherd. So, what did you think about her flashbacks?
Well, I mean, yeah, I just kind of figured like, oh, okay, yeah, like they're just she feels guilty for the whole thing, and
Mm-hmm.
she's trying to find a way to save her mom, which is like also trying to find a way to save everybody on the island.
Yeah.
Um, the whole Christian thing just like throws a whole wrench in that, and what essentially he doesn't even ask her to do anything, just to like think about what she's doing with her mom,
Mm-hmm.
and like the fact that her mom is going to be on life support for forever. And
Mm-hmm.
is that really the best for her? Um, and it's one of those things that like hundreds of people probably have to have that difficult conversation every single day with
Mm-hmm.
their real life loved ones. But the fact that it's coming from Christian Shepherd just feels swarmy and wrong,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like you said, like he's maybe the realest character in this whole show, because we don't get to see his side of the story. We only get to see how he affects everybody else's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just you know
Yeah, and this kind of paints into perspective the Ana Lucia episode
mm-hmm,
when she was in Australia with him, and he was trying to like he was looking for someone trying to get into her house, all this stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, well, you were kind of led to assume he had like a second family or something. They never really outwardly said it.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then like there really was. I was surprised that there was no. As far as the flashback goes, there was no real arc.
Yeah.
Like I guess it was supposed to be Claire admitting that she felt guilty,
Mm-hmm.
but we never really got the chance or got the feeling that she didn't.
Yeah, like the only thing is that she lies to the cop, and we can tell that pretty much right away, that like, no, the other truck hit us.
Right.
Like I don't remember how fast I was going, but that truck hit us.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but other than that, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
guess we're supposed to see that she's grown and she's able to admit that she did this.
I guess I mean I wish it had been done a little better, at least the writing, just so we would have really felt that like, oh, okay, she does feel guilty, or
Mm-hmm.
it would have been more of a reveal because like it's almost right off the bat we know what she did. Like
Mm-hmm.
they allude to it that it was her fault,
Mm-hmm.
but we never really got the feeling that she felt guilty until the end. Um, but there was like I don't know. To me, it should have been more of a twist. Like, oh, it was Claire's fault.
Yeah.
It should have been something
Yeah.
like that. So as far as the flashbacks go, they weren't bad. They weren't great either. But it was a nice chapter to have in Claire's life as we see her life as a whole right now as a character. It was a good chapter, kind of like Saeed's.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an extra chapter that gave more depth to that man. It didn't really progress the plot at all, but it was
Mm-hmm.
good to have. And that's especially if you have 20 plus episodes a season. If you're gonna do like little one-off episodes, that's how they should be done.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure.
uh, but this episode wasn't really a one-off episode. Claire's episode kind of was, but as for it paralleled nicely with her story on the island
Mm-hmm.
of her trying to capture a bird because she believes they're tagged by a
Mm-hmm.
scientist, and as they migrate south, she can put like a little note or whatever. She's like, "Hey, help us! We're
Mm-hmm.
stranded on an island."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Which, I gotta say, that's a really good idea.
yeah, I mean that's really smart. But of course, it's Charlie. Say, I don't think it's gonna work.
Oh my
Now, I
god.
think a lot of that had to do with like he knew Desmond was trying to like wave him off, so
Mm-hmm.
like he knew. It's just he didn't have to be such a dick about it.
That's also one of my notes. It says, considering how Desmond keeps saving Charlie's neck, the least Charlie could do is be less of a dick about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which like it's interesting because I really do feel like maybe even more so than like Hurley's episode, this is kind of a filler episode.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, which I feel bad about saying, but yeah, like we the audience really don't learn anything new from Claire or any of the stuff that's going on with her on the island. You know,
Right,
it's like,
right.
okay, cool. Like now Claire knows about Desmond and his weird future prophecy
Hmm.
powers that
Hmm.
only have to do with Charlie.
Yeah.
And then I guess Claire and Charlie have like a sort of come together towards the end. She's like, I'm not actually gonna give up on you. So it's like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. But that was it. You know, this whole episode that's focused on her, and
At least at
those are
least
the
the
biggest.
main plot, the A
Yeah,
plot was, yeah,
yeah,
definitely a one off. But it wasn't, again, it wasn't a bad one because
yeah,
I
yeah.
would have much rather have an episode like this than like another Jack episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that Jack's episodes are bad, because a lot of them are pretty good, and because he's kind of our de facto lead, they do move the plot forward. But just like we've already seen so much of him, I want to I want to get back to see more of the last few episodes. They've really gone the extra mile of showing the rest of the survivors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though Sun and Jen are just doing a little bit here and there, they're there. They're back
Yeah,
and forth, and
yeah.
also I think it's really funny because I didn't realize how little Nikki and Paolo are in this series, because I'm like, we're already 12 episodes in and like we don't know anything about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I don't know, I don't remember, but I remember they got so much hate when they just came out of nowhere when the season aired. And I
Mm-hmm.
think like they were far enough ahead or whatever that they they basically started to like write less of them into it. You know, because I feel like if they were serious about introducing these
Oh
characters, they would
wow.
have had them more involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Who knows when we'll see those two again? But yeah, no, I definitely see what you're saying. This was definitely a kind of a filler episode, at least for the A plot.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it. As for the B plot, though,
Some pretty juicy stuff going on there.
B for barracks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what? I don't even know where to start. What did you think? They found an invisible sonic fence.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
pretty
they
crazy.
did. That was really crazy. Uh okay, let's break it down a little bit because
Okay.
there's a lot of tension going on between Saeed and Locke
Ooh, it's Saeed, Locke, and Kate.
and Kate.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And like Mikhail's just there kind of smirking, enjoying it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, whew, man.
Yeah, and I love the moment, true to lost fashion, where like they're just like, you don't know anything about us. And then Mikhail's just like, yeah, no, I know absolutely nothing about
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
Saeed Jahar. And you're a complete stranger to me, Kate Austin. And then
Mm-hmm.
he looks at John and he's like, he starts saying, is like, and you, John Locke, like, there's something about you, all this stuff. Basically, right before he says he knows he's paralyzed, Russo shows up and
Yep.
that conversation ends. And 100% that's why Locke pushes him into the fence. 100%.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because like there's no way Locke has come too far to start having people, just out him for this, because
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't want people to know that about him. He, which is very true to his character. Like he at multiple points on the island when he has been injured, he has refused help,
Mm-hmm.
and when his legs weren't working, he refused any help. He didn't want to sit back in the wheelchair again.
Mm-hmm.
um
He's a hunter. Going back to his flashback in this season,
yeah,
he sees himself as this hunter, which is unfortunate because I feel like if he was honest about it, he would get more people on his side.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like weird things are afoot on this island, and
Mhm.
nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, that's like, oh, and again, I don't know if it's just the characters or if it's the writing or what, but it's like, this is why people need to talk. This
Yeah.
is why your characters need to be allowed to talk, because there's so many things going on. There's smoke monsters, there's hatches, there's others, there's Dharma. But then even within the characters themselves, Jack was seeing ghosts for a while.
Yeah.
Locke can fully stand oh damn it. What's her name? Bernard, his wife.
Oh, Rose.
Rose. Thank you. All
Yeah.
right.
Have we seen them this
We're gonna
season?
have to cut it. No, we haven't.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like there's the whole Rose and Bernard thing where like
Mm-hmm.
she fully had cancer. She was gonna die. The
Yeah.
second they crash landed on the island, she felt it, that it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah, absolutely. This is why we need to talk about this. If Locke just said that was my wheelchair and I can stand now, obviously Jack would have been like, it's probably just the way you landed. It it fixed your spine somehow, John. I can't explain it. Okay, but it's not faith. It's my Jack Shepherd,
I like
Matthew
it.
Fox
I
impression.
like it
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thank you. But yeah, that's just anyway. All that to say, Locke, I feel like, is at a point where he doesn't want anybody to know that about him. He sees that as a fault in himself, and he, doesn't want anybody to know. So
yeah. And and he throws Mikhail into the sound fence.
and it feels like Mikhail wanted him to do it.
Yeah. But John brings up a good point too. He's like, he killed one of his own, or like one of them asked him to kill them instead of being prisoner. So they're not going to trade. They're not going to trade anyone, Jack, for this guy. They're willing to die. And that was pretty gruesome, dude. Like there was like blood just like straight up. It wasn't spurting. It was like shooting out of his ears. Like, ooh, ooh.
Wild. Not my choice of ways to go.
No, not at all.
Yeah. But yeah,
I was just gonna say, which really sucks, because like I was gonna say, Mikhail is how you should be writing the others. He's still a total mystery. We're still not sure if he's lying or telling the truth, but he's giving us so much little tidbits of info, and we're like, oh, is this real or not? Oh, like the list he mentions. He's like, you wouldn't understand. She's like, well, why not? I'm sorry, I misspoke. You cannot understand because you're not on the list.
Dun, dun, dun.
He says something like, you're flawed. You're angry. And he says something else to Locke. I don't remember. I was like, oof, man, dude. I'm like, this is interesting. Oh, and he even said we were brought here by a great man. And cocky Kate, she even laughs it off. Really? Then why did Ben need us to rescue him? I was like, Ben's not. And of course, it gets cut off again. I was like, what? Yep.
Everybody's acting on emotion, everybody, high stress situations, all that stuff. But yeah, it's just like, guys, this is why we got to talk to the guy. And this is why we got to come together after the fact and talk to her amongst ourselves and be like, hey, this is what we know. We're going to make a decision based off that. Of course, that doesn't make for good television, apparently.
No.
But I can't say that, this isn't not good television. So,
yeah.
there you go.
He could have been lying, but he was giving us some damn good info.
Yeah. I mean,
real or not. I was like, and also because it's like he's seen, like even Saeed or Locke or someone said like he seemed pretty sure of himself, of like what he was saying. I'm like, I don't think he's making this up. And then of course the episode ends when they make it to the barracks. Which it's funny because a month or 2 months ago, one of our friends on Twitter sent us that exact clip, and it said something to the fact like, I don't remember what it was, but it was saying like watching Lost and remembering like how cheesy it was or something like that. And it was that clip of where they're trying to rescue Jack and he's running, and it turns out he's just playing football and he spikes it, but
with the nerdiest touchdown. Like,
yeah,
oh
I
my
know, it's such a white boy touchdown. And then
god.
like the music, it's like dun, 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 it's all going crazy. I
Hmm.
was like, what? And when I saw the clip on Twitter, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cheesy. It's pretty bad.
Hmm.
But in the context of this episode, it worked very well. At least I thought. I was laughing, but I'm like, as soon as they get there, it's like, oh no, this is the scene. And I was watching, I was
Hmm.
like, hey, this isn't bad. Because like we've been searching for this guy for several episodes.
Hmm.
And like they purposely left him off screen for X amount of time. And it's less of like, oh man, it's this big dramatic reveal. And it's more of like, oh crap, this sucks.
Mm.
Because it's a new hurdle to the plan. What kind of deal has he made? He's not a prisoner. It doesn't look like it. In a way, it's kind of heartbreaking. Uh, and it kind of also harkens back to, so basically that clip was just on Twitter with no context, of course.
Of course.
But then I like the conversation Russo has with Kate. And she says, I told you your daughter is probably alive in there and you haven't asked any questions. And Russo explains, what happens if you see your friend Jack 16 years from now and he doesn't remember you? He doesn't recognize you. He doesn't even know you.
Mhm.
I was like, ooh. And it's like, we didn't need 16 years or so. We needed 2 days.
2 days.
Maybe 3. I don't know.
I'm telling you, dude, 2 days, others notwithstanding, but getting cooked food, showers, working toilets. Yeah, dude. I'd be like, yeah, all right.
I'm
I'm on
another
board.
now.
Yeah,
I'm
on board.
another. I'll be a janitor. I don't care.
Right? I'll learn how to play football with you guys. Come on.
Yeah, I'll earn my
Yeah.
keep. I'll earn my way home on
I'll
that
join.
submarine that they keep mentioning.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we mentioned that in last episode. Apparently, to Mikhail, they have a submarine,
They have a
and
submarine.
that got Locke's attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Also, Saeed found C4 in Locke's backpack
Mm-hmm.
after Locke claimed to not know there was C4 in the building.
Mm-hmm.
So
All these things, I'm like,
what the hell's Locke's plan here?
uh-huh. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, is there anything we're missing?
Nope. I think
I
that's
think we
it.
talked about it. We talked about all the meat. Okay, so as of now, what's your predictions?
Ooh. We're gonna see the sub by the end of the season.
Oh, they keep teasing it, right? We got to see it.
Yeah, they keep teasing it. This is Chekhov's submarine. Okay, it's showing up, even if it's in the last scene of season 3, which I know it's not. But
Do you? How do you know that?
no, let's see, because somebody would tell me everything as soon as this episode would end live, even if I didn't want to know. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool.
Should have watched it live, man. Should have watched it live.
I was 12. I didn't care.
Were you 12?
I don't know. I was probably, yeah.
Huh.
Or maybe. I don't remember.
The show started in 04.
Mm-hmm.
You're what, 91?
Mm-hmm. Remember? Yeah.
2001, 2, 3, 4. You were 12. Like 12 or 13 when the show started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's the same thing. I was a teenager. Right?
Right.
I didn't know.
What do teenagers know, right?
Exactly.
Ask Goth Claire.
Exactly.
They're pretty cute, though, man.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. So Chekhov submarine. We've got that. I'm pretty sure like Locke and Saeed are gonna throw down.
Ooh.
If not within the next couple episodes, like soon. And I don't like Locke's chances. I feel like we're gonna find out more about Dharma. I don't know how though, because it feels like right now we're kind of just solely focused on the others, and Dharma's only kind of sort of coming into it.
Yeah.
But I have a suspicion that we're gonna be finding out Dharma in some very interesting ways.
Yeah, they've been teasing it a lot, and we've been seeing more of the logos. You know, they're like Dharma's definitely still uh, what's the word? I don't know. Like even because MacLeod gave us some differing stories, can't really know for sure. But like there's still a presence there. You know,
Mm.
even last season when Claire did have a flashback episode last season, but it was when it was all on the island. When Ethan takes her to like the maternity
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
hatch. I don't
yeah.
know, because even like the maternity hatch, that's what I'm calling it, and the main hatch that was Desmond's hatch. Like that's all Dharma stuff. So it's
Hmm.
like I don't know where Dharma is, but like they left behind a lot of stuff. So they're definitely
Hmm.
still a presence in like the story and the mythology and whatever's happening.
I wonder if this is a the 100 situation, and Dharma is actually living inside the big old mountains that are, you know, surrounding the whole island. You know
Like
that,
Mount
that
Weather.
yeah, like Mount Weather. That'd be pretty sweet. You know, they're just there, and then we get the thing. It's like, yes, keep doing this. Unleash the smoke monster. Yes, Mister Johnson, whatever. Yeah, do,
That
do, do,
yeah,
do.
that's that killer poison mist from the 100 was kind of it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of that. Yeah,
Unless you were in it. But
yeah.
all right. I think those are some good predictions.
Thank you.
All right, so this was season 3, episode 12, but in total,
Mm-hmm.
this episode was episode 61. Do you know
Okay.
what that means?
No.
After this episode, we are officially in the second half of Lost.
Really?
We have made it, bro. We have made it.
Wow. We're halfway there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything we did, we just got to do it again.
It's been a long road.
Oh God. Hopefully, we just keep getting better. Better audio. I think we're more comfortable now. You know,
Uh-huh.
I think it's good. But seeing that we are now halfway through the show, I wanted to get your feedback on your experience with Lost.
Ooh. Oh, this is interesting. It's like a customer review.
Kind of. Now, what a good host would have done would have got like Lost tailored questions to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not me.
Uh-oh.
So I just got a career advice questionnaire and feedback review that I would like to ask you. So,
Okay.
for the first, Sam, for the first half of Lost, how satisfied are you with your experience?
Is this like a numbers thing? Is this like a rating scale of 1 to 5 or
No,
something?
just answer. What does your heart tell you? How is your overall experience?
Overall, I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a solid show.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how it was the phenomena that it was. Uh Definitely had its moments where I was like, I think I'm done. Most recently with Jack's tattoo episode. If we get one more of those, I swear I'm gonna Wikipedia the rest of the series. I don't care. Um yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it's good. I think it's a good show.
Okay. Sam,
Mm-hmm.
did we answer all of your concerns?
Not hardly. Not
Hmm.
hardly at all. There's a lot of loose ends, but you know
Hmm.
that's fine because we're in the middle of the show. So some of them, yeah, the hatch and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Who this Ben guy is and all that stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, yeah, no.
So, how can our business be more helpful?
First off, no more Jack episodes. Secondly, way less others, more polar bear and smoke monsters. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Throw in a cool submarine battle, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, answer some damn questions. All
Okay.
right.
All right. Now, how does our business meet your expectations?
I'd say my expectations have been met.
Okay, would you like to go more in depth?
I knew what I was getting into when I said yes to this podcast. When I said yes to rewatching Lost, a series that quite famously many people did not like, specifically because they said that it gives you no answers whatsoever, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I kind of knew what I was getting into. So I would say yeah, it is a show. It's a show I really like. I knew I was gonna like it. My expectations have been met.
Okay. So, like, from what, because, we've mentioned this before, some things were spoiled to you, unfortunately, while you were a teenager, what you remember and all that stuff. Up to this point in the show, like, what you knew what was going to happen, like, was it still good, though? Like, anything you had spoiled previously, and now that you're watching it, you're like, does it still work?
Oh yeah,
Those twists.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's one thing. It's like it's like the end of this episode, that was clipped and put on Twitter. It's like it's all out of context.
Right.
So like, yeah, sure, I'm hearing it secondhand, or I'm finding out these things. And it's like, oh, okay, weird, sure, whatever. Or oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But then it's the difference between experiencing that and then getting the context for it and being like, oh yeah,
Right.
like no, like it works. Yeah, like weird smoke monsters, polar bears, like yeah, it's weird, but I like it, and yeah, and then of course, seeing certain episodes for yourself is like, okay, yeah, like I can definitely see like this was a big deal, and then you get other episodes and you're like, okay, yeah, we have to fill time, I guess. We
Yeah.
got 22 of these babies we got to make, so not all of them are going to be perfect, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I also think like we're like we're the audience for this show. We like sci-fi, we like supernatural things, we like good mysteries, good dramas, really well done human stories. And that's what Lost is, all of those. So for someone who isn't really into any of that, I could see how they wouldn't enjoy it.
Or for somebody who's only into like some of that, if somebody's more into like
Right.
the mystery sci-fi element and they don't really care about the human story, like, no, I don't care about that.
You
Show me
see,
more of the islands. Like, I can definitely
yeah.
see how this is not their cup of tea.
And that's the main thing, because I know everyone was saying with Game of Thrones like tricks you into watching fantasy because it doesn't really feel like a fantasy. It feels more similar to these other genres or whatever. And people are like, I can't believe I'm watching this show about dragons. Lost is very much the same way, but I think there's just so many different things going on in the show that a couple people they fell off of it, because nobody knew what it was when the show started. They all wanted to know, and then they're like, wait a second, is this guy time traveling? They're like, oh, that's weird, I don't know, and they kind of just blow it off.
Yeah.
And it's the same way for all the other stuff. The ones where it's a real trouble though is when you don't want that human story, because that's the premise of Lost. These people are lost people, physically and I don't know, emotionally, spiritually, philosophically. I don't know. They're just lost people,
Grammatically.
Yeah. And who knows what's going to happen? Maybe this is the story of how they find themselves. I don't know. Who knows? Okay, so there's like 25 questions. I don't have time for that. So, what's the primary reason that you canceled your account?
Nope. Haven't done that yet.
Nope, not that one. Nope. Ooh, what is your favorite product? What is your favorite part of Lost so far?
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna be boring and I'm gonna say it's the characters. I really love some of these characters, and getting to see them and then just learn about them, and sort of see like how different their lives are now that they've become lost, now that they're stuck in this place that they have
Yeah.
almost no way off. um and how much worse off their lives are, and how potentially some of them are better off here.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things. It's the thing that I don't, somebody said it about Wes Anderson movies, but it's like the thing about Wes Anderson movies is like this one story is is the most eventful this person's life is ever going to be. That's why we're watching it. That's why we're
Mm-hmm.
not watching the grown-up kids from Moonrise Kingdom.
Right.
That's not why we're watching that. That's not why we're watching the rise of Steve Zissou. It's like, no, 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 no. It's because this is the most significant story of their life. That's why we're watching it. That's kind of how I feel about Lost, in that this is the most significant event that's happened to any of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know what happens to them. I want to know. It's like, yeah, cool. Hurley was a millionaire, and there's the cursed numbers. Sawyer was a criminal, and he's just going back to the States, whatever. Jack was bringing his dad. Sun and Jin were in a terrible, loveless marriage, and now look at everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Sawyer's calling people names. Hurley got a car working. Sun and Jin are immaculately, beautifully in love and having a baby, and Jack's doing white boy touchdowns.
Let me
Okay,
say, Hurley got a car working. That car represented hope, Sam. Okay?
exactly. But
Yeah.
see, it's the context thing, if you're
Yeah.
not watching it, then it's
Context.
like, oh yeah, what happened last week on Lost, huh? What happened in your big nerdy island show? Oh, they fixed a car. That okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love these people.
Yeah, it's like you have to, if you give it the time, you'll be rewarded for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to ask you two more questions because I found them very interesting in this context. Did specific product help you accomplish your goal? And by that I mean, how has Lost affected you as a storyteller?
Oh, interesting. Okay. I think one of the things that Lost has done for me is to show just how diverse your storytelling can be within one setting. And it's also kind of shown me how to do and then how not to do certain character things. I know I keep ragging on the tattoo episode, but it's a ridiculous premise, and I'm gonna keep using it because I feel like that's a good example of maybe the confines of this particular type of storytelling. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons for me, is that I think you have to really know what kind of story it is you're going to be telling and how you're going to be telling it. Because I feel like at the outset, when they first got there, however many episodes they got, I feel like their thinking was, oh yeah, we're going to tell half the story in flashback and then half the story on the island, do all that stuff. Cool. And then as the show went on and as it got more successful and as it became this phenomenon, it's like, we have to commit to this type of storytelling for every episode. How are we going to do that? And how are we going to keep it fresh and original and new? And sometimes they do. And then sometimes it's like, that's a good Lost episode. Yeah. And then other times it's not. So it's like, I think it's sort of like having the premise is one thing, and then figuring out how you're going to be telling that story needs to be the second part. Because, you could tell the story of Lost without any of the flashbacks. Would it be as good? I don't know. It might not be.
Yeah.
But the fact that they have to commit to the flashbacks is what they have is that's their cross. They have to bear that, and it's like, okay, we got to do a flashback now every episode. And I feel like the more varied those are, the better they are.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need a flashback for Nikki Paolo? No, probably not. Do I need more Jack ones? I don't know. Maybe. How much more is there to Sun and Jin? I don't know. So far, they've only had one not so great episode.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got Echo's episode, I was like, this is great. This is good. I
Mm-hmm.
love this. I love this. I want a Rousseau episode. What is that
Mm-hmm.
going to entail? I don't know. Do I want a Ben episode? Yeah, kind of.
Hmm.
Kind of do. I want to know what's going on with this guy. I would have taken a Miss Clue episode. I would have taken
Interesting.
it just because it's different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I wonder what like how would you do just like a normal guy's episode? Like he doesn't have a big dramatic backstory. Like would he even get like how would you tell that story? Because we've talked about this like in Dungeons and Dragons and writing and all that stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
people always come up with these backstories for characters. One of the coolest things I like though is to kind of tackle the character who's like setting out for the first time. Especially like if you do D&D, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'm on vengeance," or "I'm searching for this artifact. We're on a quest." And then you have
Mm-hmm.
this one guy. He's like, "Hey, I'm leaving home for the first time, and I want to go find some adventure."
Yeah.
Like how would you tackle a character like that on this show? You
Yeah.
know, he probably wouldn't have flashbacks, or like I just don't know how you would do that. It's like I'm just a normal dude who works in a bookstore.
Yeah. Well, okay. Okay, let's plot that out for a sec, because instantly what I started thinking of was like, oh, well, you have to figure out why this guy's leaving. Is it the Disney thing of, like, I just want more. There's nothing for me in this town. I need to go out there and have an adventure. That's fine. But if you kind of peel back, the layer sort of thing, like, I want to know, like, not that it has to be a super traumatic event, but like, what's the thing? What's the catalyst for them to go off on this adventure now? Because
Mm,
that's kind of the Lost thing, is that these things all happened to get these people onto this plane, and then they were on the plane and it
true,
crashed. So
true.
it's like, it doesn't necessarily need to be the most harrowing thing possible, but I want to know, like, maybe that guy had a conversation with a friend and it ate at him for so long, because that friend, he went off to go do his exploring, and he came back and he had all these cool stories and all these adventures. And what did this guy do? He did nothing. He stayed home. He worked at the shop. He did everything he was supposed to. He's not a bad person, but he's not remarkable. And so
Yeah.
it's like, does he feel envious about that? Or does he believe that that's the life that he wants too? And is like, oh yeah, I can do that. Is he trying to prove it to himself? Is he trying to prove it to his family? That's kind of the thing about Lost, is that they're taking these things that feel mundane. It's like, here's a father and son who are trying to reconnect. They haven't been in each other's lives for years. Now we're going to go do that.
Hmm.
We have to do it on the island. There was a real interesting um, interview with Grant Morrison years ago, where he was talking about writing Superman. I'm sorry, they were talking about writing Superman. Um, and what they said is that you just take the normal everyday story and you make it fantastical. There is a story where Superman has to go off into space. He has to go do something. He has to stop an asteroid or something. But he also, as Clark Kent, needs to go have dinner with his in-laws. And he feels nervous about that. He wants to make a good impression. He wants to do all this thing. So what is it exactly? It's still a story about him having to go off and stop the asteroid. It's him still having to go all do these things. But at the end of the day, it's still just a story about a guy who's nervous.
Hmm.
That's the thing that Lost does, I think. When they do it well,
Yeah.
you can do that fairly well.
Hmm. Interesting. I don't know if that really answers the question. I think that's more kind of like you need to decide, like, is this a character you want to spend time with?
Yeah.
If they don't really have much in the backstory to show.
Mhm.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, one, that's up to you. But then there's the whole thing where it's like there was never a Jin, there was never a Sun. We had these people show up on the day of, and it was like, oh, you're great.
Well, yeah, but I mean, those are fully fleshed out characters with deep like backstories. Um, I guess that it's just kind of like, how would you? Because we talked about it before, especially in the earlier days of watching this. Like, how do we put ourselves in the show? Like, would we survive?
Mm,
I'm like, okay, well, think about that. Like, if you're gonna have like if you're going to put yourself into the show, or like a plant, someone who like the audience is supposed to like latch onto, kind of experience things through their eyes, how would you do that?
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I guess in the context of Lost, the way the show is, like, they have to have some kind of cool backstory thing to tell. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's fate. Maybe it's destiny. Maybe we don't know yet.
Maybe it's
You
just good
know,
television.
maybe just all the normal people with not a lot going on in their lives, they're the ones who died, or they got kidnapped by
Right?
the others. You know,
Yeah. Well, yeah,
so
it's like the guy who got sucked into the engine. He was a writer.
yeah, yeah, he was a writer.
He had his manuscript there. What was that?
I don't know.
Hmm.
I think that means it's time for our last question.
Okay.
What do our competitors do better than us?
Who in this context would be Lost's competitor?
I don't know. Other shows?
From what time?
Whenever, right now. You're watching it right now.
All right. Okay. I'm watching it right now.
It's kind of tricky because you could easily say that there's a lot of stuff out there that, like, oh, okay, Lost did it first, or without Lost, we wouldn't have gone through steps, B, C, and D to get here.
mhm.
But I don't know, ensemble stories, sci-fi stories. But even then, this is like, it's sci-fi, supernatural, but it's very like, I don't know, vague about it.
Mhm.
It's not like, we're not sci-fi laser battles, or it's not like we're tackling science fiction or the supernatural every episode.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't know. Are there even competitors?
uh yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, because like the only other show that I would compare this to would be Battlestar Galactica, because I feel
Interesting.
like they do very similar things. One, Battlestar Galactica also does like the flashbacks a lot.
Well,
That's
yeah,
not
but
that's not
nowhere
all the
near as much as Lost.
no, I know that's what I'm
Hmm.
getting at. It's not all the time, but they do use that as an important function of their storytelling from time to time. But it is a big ensemble.
Hmm.
While we do still technically have our leads, it does jump around who's the focus of of mostly every episode. And it's all about people who, even though they're moving, they're still trapped.
Hmm.
They can't settle down. And every time they try and settle down, something stops them. There's the big overarching others who are coming after them. It's like I would say that the contemporary would be, or their competitor would be Battlestar.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, and of course, in that respect, obviously Battlestar has big space battles. I love big space
Yeah.
battles. It's got Edward James Olmos. How can I not love that? Um, but I think this does the interesting thing of like how far can we push the envelope of being still about the human story within essentially a world that's becoming less and less recognizable. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we do have these other forces that are out there, whether they're supernatural or not, or science fictiony or not. And I like that these people are just people. You know, they don't have, I mean, they may have a destiny about them. I don't know. But for all that we know right now, they're just people. They're just like you and me. They could be our coworkers. It's like if our coworkers were all trapped on an island, you
Mm-hmm.
know, who would be the Hurley, who would be, you know, Jack, or who would be Rose and Bernard, you know, all that stuff. I don't know that there's a modern show that does what Lost. Well, I mean, maybe it would be something like, I haven't seen it, but maybe it would be something like The Wilds, which has a similar concept of young people trapped on an island, and there's mysterious, maybe vaguely sci-fi stuff going on.
Like that's tough because I definitely see the relationship between Lost and Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's kind of like Lost, but in space, not Lost in space, but
Trademarked.
it's the show Lost, like set in space. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're trapped. They're trying to find a way home. Blah blah blah. There are some very it's a heavy science fiction, but there are some supernatural elements to it, and yada yada. But as for everything else, like the wilds and stuff, like it's just a survival show, and it's also a show about like really well written human characters. So yeah, I don't know if I think the easy thing to get out of like the whole idea of like, oh, what do competitors do better? I don't know, they don't do it better. But like the big thing was the flashbacks. After
Mm-hmm.
Lost aired, everyone started doing flashback shows.
Yep.
And some people try to like play around with flashbacks and how they use them and stuff. And like no one did it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even as shaky as Lost is and dependent on the flashbacks that Lost is, no one did it as good. I've always thought of like Game of Thrones on the same level as far as like competitors
Mm.
because of the scale. You have all these different characters going different places, but Game of Thrones, I mean, it's really the books, based off the books, Song of Ice and Fire. Like you focus on the characters and you have a few leads, but you actually focus on them going different places. Season 3 of Lost is kind of the first time where we have the like several storylines going on in different locations.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's just like one or two episodes. Oh, we're gonna go trek over here, blah blah. But now we're like, okay, we have the camp, we have the barracks, we have Baby Island, all that stuff. Um, so I think like that you can consider competitor as far as like the way the story is told. Oh,
Okay.
and the Expanse, because the
Oh.
Expanse is essentially Game of Thrones in space. As far as like the way they choose it, the way like the book at least each chapter focuses on a different character, straight up like George R. R. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just pretty much streamlined it in the show and they made it, you know, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Best science fiction shows of all time.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I just want to thank you for filling out this workplace survey.
Yeah, no problem. Do I get like a bonus, like a discount? Do I get a
Um,
cookie or something?
I'll say I would like to extend the invitation for you to join us for the next 60 episodes.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Guys, thanks for joining us for half a show.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know this episode did go on a little long, but
Mm-hmm.
I
I
think
make no apologies for that.
yeah, it was an interesting questionnaire. But join us next week. Yeah, I don't know our schedule anymore. Join us next time as we talk about season 3, episode 13, The Man from Tallahassee. Saeed and Kate face an unexpected challenge while trying to rescue Jack. Meanwhile, Locke's agenda is revealed.
Mm.
Ooh. Cool. And yeah, you know where to find us. Hashtag Lost Legacies, guys. just saying, on our Patreon for Cinnamon and Oatmeal, we have been answering fan questions.
Mm-hmm.
And no lie, it's pretty damn fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. We'd love to answer lost questions
Yeah.
from you guys.
Hit us up at hashtag Lost Legacies. Or I'm also on Twitter _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And I am on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Yeah. So until next time, get lost.
Get lost.